the two countries, this is my last slide, the two countries, the leaders of these two countries are aware of this risk, and they have forged an agreement to cooperate in energy efficiency, fuel-efficient vehicles, clean coal technology, and the like. And in my view, this is the only way to avert a increasing level of friction and conflict between the U.S. and China in these areas of growing reliance by the U.S. and China on imported oil. I haven't talked about China's growing need for imported oil, but China is expected to overtake the United States in the next 10 years or so as the leading importer of oil. And given the fact that the supply of oil is likely to decline, I can see that this only leading in the direction of friction and conflict. So unless the two countries, I believe, can agree to cooperate and move away from this, I think we're in trouble. So I will conclude then with this view, that if we persist in our reliance on oil, despite all of its advantages, which I acknowledge, we're going to face either environmental catastrophe, economic catastrophe, or conflict and friction and political catastrophe in some combination of the above. So for our own national benefit, for our own well-being, it's imperative that we move as rapidly as possible away from reliance on oil. There is no way to make oil safe, clean, reliable, abundant. There is absolutely no option, no way to do that. Every oil option is dangerous, costly, risky, and problematic. That's just the nature of this being in an extreme oil era. So the sooner we get ourselves out of that, the better we're going to be. I'll end there. I hope that all of these comments and the points that I raised will now get you to jump on me with your comments and questions. I look forward to that. Thank you.
I'll ask that when you ask questions that you speak loudly, and sometimes, Michael, you might have to repeat the question.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll see you first.
Thank you. Are you familiar with a study done at Stanford under the direction of Mark Jacobs? They argue that wind, water, and solar energy could power this country completely by the year 2030 if we started now. That the technology is in fact there to do this.
I'm sure that if people made the necessary lifestyles, that might be possible, but people aren't ready yet to make those necessary lifestyles.
He argued that it was essentially politics that is stopping it.
It's not just politics, it's habit. People are, you used to be able to go, I live in Northampton, and not so very long ago, it would be a simple train ride. There were 40 trains a day to Springfield, Mass., and there would be 10 or 20 trains a day from there to Albany, and I'm sure there would be trolleys to Schenectady, and I wouldn't need a car. And I'm sure this whole area was wired with trolleys. If you look at pictures, as there was throughout the Northeast, there were trolleys, interurbans, they were called, everywhere. They were ripped out. So now we have the task of rebuilding the rail system we once enjoyed in this country. We had the best rail system in the world. We have to rebuild it. That's not going to happen in 30 years. So we have a major transformational task ahead of us. And let me say that that's going to require a rethinking of what the good life is. And I grew up where in the 50s, where the image of good life was a ranch house in the suburb with a big plot of land, 2 cars in the front yard, and other oil-powered machinery scattered around, lawnmowers and stuff like that. And that image lives deep in the American psyche. There is no way that that can be preserved, but people will seek to preserve it at any cost. So we have to create a new image of the good life that involves living in denser housing, closer to public transit, closer to services, cafes, restaurants, shopping, healthcare, libraries, that people get to choose, but we're not there. Yes?
Yes, I believe in the protecting our environment, and I'm with an organization that's called Arise locally, and it's under a statewide umbrella. And referring to the technology today, do you have to drive and meet statewide like we used to? In today's technology, everything can be done, over Skype or Uber or whatever. You didn't have to get in the car, burn all the oil, and everybody go to Syracuse or Rochester and meet. So do you feel in today's technology we can save a lot of oil? It just seems to me unreasonable that we're overseas and we're propping up countries like Saudi Arabia with our arms. They get most of their weapons from us. They're dictatorship number 6 in the world, I believe, out of all the dictatorships. They're ranked 6. They get most of their weapons from us, and we're told that on 9/11, we're told that, what was it, 9 out of how many hijackers?
It gets this way.
Yeah, right. So is that a coincidence?
China is now the leading consumer of Saudi oil because the Chinese consumers have seen so much American television and movies. I've been told this 1,000 times, I'm not making this up, that they think the good life is to live in the suburbs and drive an American car, preferably a Buick. Don't ask me why, but they want a Buick, and they want to live that life. So, like I say, until we create a new image of what a good life means, which I think means living closer to cities, closer to services, the arts, we have to provide those things for people. Bike lanes and a desirable quality of life that's denser. Then people will choose that way. That's what I think. Now let me get somebody else. And then, is there, yes?
Do you think that oil played a central role in the United States and its involvement in the Libyan War?
In which war?
The Libyan War?
In the grand sense, yes.
You have to repeat that.
The question was whether oil played a role in the war, the intervention in Libya, right? I think in the grand sense, yes. Is President Obama scheming about how to get his hands on Libyan oil? No. I think that President Obama and his advisors are looking at a big map of the Middle East, and they're seeing American power and influence eroding. They see it eroding in Egypt, in Tunisia, in Yemen, and they're fearful that this could have a snowballing effect, and God forbid it should come to Saudi Arabia. So that they're being pushed and pulled in different directions and felt they had to do something in Libya. Now, do the French and British